Hello and welcome back to another great session called Components of Data Warehouse. When we are learning about data warehouse, it's important to learn about different components of the data warehouse as well. There are basically 7 different types of components of the data warehouses. So those kind of components are very much essential in order to have the data warehouse system to be successful. All right, what are those 7 components? First one is data warehouse database. The central data warehouse database is the cornerstone or the heart of the data warehousing environment. This database is almost always implemented on the relationship database management system, which is also called as RDBMS technology. However, this kind of implementation is often constrained by the fact that traditional relationship database management systems products are optimized for the transactional database processing. Certain data warehouse attributes like the very large database size, the ad hoc query processing, and the need for the flexible user view creation, including the aggregates, multi-table joins, and the drill downs, have become drivers for different technological approaches to the data warehouse database. This is about data warehouse database. And the next component is sourcing, acquisition, cleanup, and transformation tools. A significant portion of the implementation effort is spent basically by extracting the data from operational systems and putting that data in a format which is suitable for informational applications that run off the data warehouse. So you might be wondering what are the things involved in this sourcing, acquisition, cleanup, and transformation process. So in this process, basically, you're going to remove the unwanted data from operational databases. And you're going to convert to the common data names and the definitions. And you're going to establish the defaults for missing the data. Then accommodating the source data definition charges. Let's quickly learn what each one of them. So removing unwanted data from operational databases. Your operational databases can have so much information which is not really helpful for making any business decisions with the help of historic data in the data warehouse. So you have an employee name, you have employee age, you have employee religion. So when you're extracting the data, the employee, for your business decisions, the employee religion doesn't make any sense. So in that case, what you're going to do is employee name and the employee age. Only those two, the columns are the data you're going to extract from the operational databases. That's about removing unwanted data. And the next thing is converting to common data names and the definitions. For example, you are receiving a customer name field from 2 different data sources. But in one data source, it is named as, the name of the field is given as customer name. And in another source, it is given as only the customer. So when you're extracting the data from these 2 operational databases and you're populating into your data warehouse, you might retain only one name called as customer name, which is actually, the data from 2 different operational data sources. So this is basically converting to a common data names when you're accessing or extracting the data from different data sources. So third thing is establishing defaults for the missing data. So when I say establishing the defaults for the missing data, for example, you have customer name, you have customer age, you have customer salary, or customer, the religion. So, but any of this field is missing. So when you're loading into your data warehouse, let's say, for example, customer religion is missing for that person. So when you're loading that data into a data warehouse, so you're going to make sure you want to say that the unknown information as unknown, or by default you put him as Christian, or you put it as Islam, or you put it as Hindu. So that kind of so by default what you want to define, that is that information is given by the business users, and you're going to have the default information for the missing data. So these are some of the some of the things which are done as part of the sourcing, acquisition, cleanup, and transforming the data. And the third thing is the metadata. Metadata is data about the data that basically describes the data warehouse. It is used for the building, maintaining, and managing and using the data warehouse. So the metadata are again classified into different types. First one is technical metadata. So this basically contains the information about the warehouse data for the use by the warehouse designers. That means the technical people and the administrators. So when they're carrying out the database development and management task, they're going to make use of this information. Basically, this is a technical information of the data which you're loading into your data warehouse. And second type of metadata is called business metadata. So this contains the information that gives users an easy to understand perspective of the information stored in the data warehouse. That means it's like a business related information of the data. So I'm going to explain what is metadata in details with examples. We have a separate topic for the metadata itself. So I'm going to restrict the information of the metadata to this much itself, because metadata itself is again a different topic, and I have to explain a lot of things when it comes to the metadata, which we're going to discuss in our next subsequent topics. And the next one is access tools. So when I say the access tools, basically the principal purpose of the data warehousing is to provide the information to the business users for strategic decision making. So these users basically interact with the data warehouse using the front-end tools. So many of these tools require an information specialist. Although many end users develop the expertise in those tools fall into mainly 4 categories. One is query and reporting tools, and second one is application development tools, and third thing is online analytical processing tools and data mining tools. So these are basically the tools which are used by the end users. So these tools are used and implemented based on the need. Say for example, you are a data mining person, then you might have to go to data mining tools in order to access the data. So if you are like a just analysis purpose you are using, then you might use online analytical processing tools. So that's about access tools. And third thing is data mart. So the concept of the data mart is basically causing a lot of excitement and attracts much attention in the data warehouse industry. Mostly the data marts are presented as an alternative to the data warehouse that takes significantly less time and the money to build. So, however, the term data mart means different things to different people. A rigorous definition of this term is a data store, basically. That is basically a subsidiary to a data warehouse of the integrated data. So the data mart is basically directed at a partition of the data, which is also called as the partition of the data based on the subject areas, which is created for the use of dedicated group of users. Data mart might in fact be a set of denormalized, basically. Denormalized means you know about normalization, right? So the normalization is basically done for the operational data sources. but denormalized data you are going to have it in data warehouse, and it's a summarized data or it may be aggregated data. So anyway, don't worry. So you're going to learn more about the data mart in the topic where the data mart exclusively discussed. And the next thing is data warehouse admin and the management. So data warehouse is basically like 4 times as large as related to operational databases. Sometimes it can reaches terabytes in size, depending on how much history needs to be saved. So if you go back like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years history of the data, the volume of the data is going to be increased. That's why sometimes you will have some applications which have a data volume of terabytes in size. So they are not synchronized in real time to the associated operational data, but are updated as and often once a data if the application requires it. Basically, like these data will be synchronized as and when it is required. Sometimes they are synchronized once in a month, or it can be synchronized bi-weekly, or it can be weekly as well, based on the need. Because it's a large volume of the data, you cannot really do any repeated the operations on that data. The next thing is information delivery system. So the information delivery component is used to enable the process of subscribing for the data warehouse information and having it delivered to basically to one or more destinations according to some user specified scheduling algorithm. So, in other words, the information delivery system distributes warehouse stored data and other information objects to other data warehouses and end user products such as the spreadsheet and local databases. So, this information delivery system basically acts as like, for example, I am from sales and there is another department called finance, there is a finance data which the sales department want to use. Then the finance department, the sales department sends a request to finance department saying like, hey, I need the last 10 years of the customer transactions data. Could you please give me? Then the finance team is going to provide that data in a comma separated value format or textpad format, or it can dump the data into another database where the sales team can access that data. So this is basically the information delivery system, which is pretty much part of the data warehouses, which you can say like another component within the data warehouse. So I hope you enjoyed this session. It's a pretty much it's a bit lengthy session compared to other session we had so far, because the components are very much the critical for the success of this data warehouse. So you need to understand each component, if not in details, at least you should have the basic understanding of what each component does within the data warehouse. I hope you enjoyed this session. I'll see you in the next chapter. Thank you.